Well, welcome to part 3 of my heat pump video. And in this video, I come back from Germany and I have my first impressions of coming into a house that's run by a heat pump. We also look into the performance in a lot more detail and what things we can do to tune that performance to our satisfaction. Okay, so just come off the flight from Amsterdam and back from Germany. So as you can imagine, I am very excited to see how the performance of my heat pump is and what it's like to what it's like to walk in to a heat pump heated house for the first time. So let's go take a look. So the heat pump will be off based on my historical observations. It tends to come off somewhere around 11 o'clock in the evening. That's when I think the set point is changed from 21 degrees to 19. So here we go. What have we got? 19 degrees. Okay, so let's go in here. And what have we got here? So if we press the home button there, we press this. All smells a bit funny as well. I imagine that's, let's go to information. This is what I want to have a look at first of all. Energy data. Electricity input. 90 kilowatt hours, that's what I was reckoning. And if we go up, produced heat, 222 kilowatt hours. So we're looking at a coefficient of performance of about just under 2.5. So it's not the best. So what we want to do is work on that. The performance of the heat pump has had to deal with temperatures of -4 and -5 on 2 nights. So that's interesting, but I think we can definitely improve on that. So at least we have got nice hot water, and it looks like we've got a temperature in the radiators of about 41 degrees and 2 bar of water pressure. So this is interesting. Right, I think it's time. One other little thing I want to just check. Let's just see how the meters correlate with each other. 94 kilowatt hours there. So there is a difference between what the 2 units say. Lots of things to look at, but I think we're just talking about having a shower and then going to bed and unpacking these things. So as you can see where we left off, we had continuous running from about 3:45 in the evening time until about 10:30 in the evening. Plenty of power consumption that was greater than 2 kilowatts. And then it mysteriously stopped in the middle of the night for thermostatic reasons, for want of a better term. If we go on to the next morning, you can see it remained off until about 2:30 in the morning before we got quite a large spike in power before having more moderate consumption. And then we had another small period of no power consumption, and then we had large power consumption again. For context, let's have a look at the weather for that day. So this is the 24th. You can see that when the power cut out for the heat pump, it was about -2. And if we go to February the 25th, you can see it was dropping down to about -4.5 by 7 o'clock in the morning before rising up. There were periods of on time and there were periods of off time during this period in the cold night. So the overall performance of the heat pump was over capacity. So there was plenty of opportunity to improve on the performance here. going back to the middle of the day for the 25th, you can see there were again long periods during the daytime where there was no need for the heat pump at all. And then into the following night, it was lower power consumption, but not by much. And then again, a period of time in the evening when the heat pump was switched off. And then going into the following day, you can see that there is less and less frequent demand for the heat pump. This was the day when my last day in Germany. This is when I came home. And again, we still have these peaks, absurdly large peaks at 4.43 kilowatts. I can only imagine that the backup heater was kicking in at this point in time. So again, if we look at the 26th, I don't think that was quite such a cold night. No, it remained above freezing that time. Now, one other piece of information that's worth having a look at is the actual temperature in my bedroom when the heat pump was switched on. As you can see, just after 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday, day of commissioning, that was the minimum temperature. It was about 6.8 degrees Celsius. And it took about 12 hours to get up to 15 degrees Celsius, which is, in my opinion, the minimum comfortable temperature to be there. It was cycling on and off at 18 degrees. Now, my bedroom is normally colder than the rest of the house anyway. So one of the things I like to do is have a look underneath and look at their handiwork and see very small details which you might be interested in. So one of the things is that the penetrations are sealed up with silicone, and the old penetrations are also sealed up. So that prevents drafts coming into your house, of course. Let's go and take a look underneath. So you can see how they do the pipe work underneath. So they do this under and over arrangement with the pipe work. It's not too shabby. I like that. That's good. One other thing to note is just how much dust has been kicked up. Look at that. That's going to be quite a cleaning job once I've covered up everything. So what I'm doing is going around all the chambers and just having a look underneath the floors to see what the handiwork is like and what work remains to be done. One thing I have noticed is that the immersion heater switch for the old system is still in place, and what I found was that the wiring was still there. So I need to go and, well, I don't need to, but I want to go and remove the old stuff as far as practicable. So let's get this thing on. Get my COVID, my porting down mass compression. Right. And let's go and have a closer look. Right. I'm not going to bring my fancy camera with me, I'll bring my phone. Right, let's go in here. I really hate this bit. Oh, I really hate this bit. Right. So we are right underneath the hot water tank, the actual cylinder. So what have we got here? Some slight pipe work missing, lots of press joints. This is the overpressure relief valve, so that doesn't need to be lagged. Over here, this is the main trunk which goes to the bottom of the house. What have we got here? Smaller pipe work, but to be understood. And yeah, it looks like an interesting job. This is the main refrigerant line, going all the way down there and then into that hole there, and it goes into the next chamber. So that looks pretty decent. So, all told, not too bad, not too bad.
And we've got some, it's always really tricky getting pipe work past these walls, so it has to dive into the section where there would otherwise be rock wool. As you can see, this is fiberglass, and that was a section of a section of floor I never managed to upgrade to rock wool. It was just too difficult. But I managed to do this bit, managed to fit the rock wool around it, so that was great. But that is a water supply pipe. This one is the central heating pipe work. So let's go into the lounge radiator. So that's quite interesting. Wow. I never like going down there. That's not so fun. So, I think everything is in order. I'm also really happy they've removed the gas pipe. So that just means they've just done a good job.
So one other little thing, they've not just disconnected the pipework, they've removed it, and you've got nothing more than a small little filling of where the pipe used to be, and that is very satisfactory indeed. I think it leaves almost no trace. So let's hear what the sound of the outdoor unit is like. So you can definitely hear it, of course. What is the power output here? It's about 1.7 kilowatts. So yes, you can hear it. But to be quite frank, I think the sound of the birds is now noisier than this. I've heard louder boilers than this. So you can see at the bottom there's a bit of frosting which is happening, and that will probably start to build up as the unit continues to function. You can see some more frosting over here. So yeah, it's interesting to see what's going on here. So this is the noise level inside my hallway with the heat pump running. You can't hear it. You can barely hear it. Unlike my old boiler, where you could definitely hear it. It was very noticeable when that was switched on. Let's have a closer listen. So I don't think that's particularly noisy at all. You can barely notice it with the door closed, and when you notice it with, you can notice it with the door open. This controller here, it has a blue ring that goes around it when the heat pump is in operation. That's often my only hint that the heat pump is actually running at this particular point in time. So yes, it is much quieter than a general than an old-fashioned boiler. At the moment, I haven't got it set up properly. The duty cycle is about, let's say, I think it's about 10 to 15%, with an outdoor temperature of 5 degrees. So I'm going to be doing some further adjustments. So one of the things we're going to do is try and adjust the heating settings. So we want to go to, let's see, main zone. Let's see, so we've got main zone. We've got set point mode, which is the one selected at the moment. We want to have heating weather dependent curve. And we want to change these set points. So 45 degrees leaving water temperature will happen at -5. Now, as you saw from Sunday, we had a temperature of -5 and it was cycling on and off on the thermostat maybe 50% of the time with a backup heater coming in. So I think we can change that to -10 degrees. So if we go this way, then I think that's good. 35 degrees, it's quite warm for a temperature of 18, so I think we can reduce that down to about 20, let's say 26 degrees. So I think that would be a much better heating curve for my property. Let's see. I'm not too sure what other things we've got here. 2 points, yep, that's fine. Let's go up to set point mode. It is weather dependent, so that's fine. Basically, I think the installer was designing for comfort and caution, not knowing how my house would respond. Now that we've got some data points, that's good. I think we'll go back up and we'll go to space heating and cooling. We've done that stuff already. So we've got a comfort set point of 50 degrees and an eco set point of 45 degrees. I think we can bring those temperatures down. So let's say eco set point, that'll be 40 degrees. And a comfort set point, we'll bring that down to, let's say, 47 degrees. And then we've got a schedule. This was one of the first things I changed. So if we go on to Monday, we go to edit. So the comfort set point, the higher temperature set point, comes on during the cheap hours of electricity. And then we've got the eco set point, which is for all other times of the day. So we can see comfort is at midnight, and then it starts again at 11:30. So it's precisely the same time as the Octopus Go Intelligent tariff. Let's go up to space heating and cooling, operation mode, heating mode. Okay, and anti-frost, let's see what the, yeah, we've got anti-frost switched on. Then we've got the room temperatures. So there is a heating schedule here. Yes, we do have a schedule, heating schedule. If we go on to Monday, they're all the same. It's 19 degrees all the way through. So it's just a constant temperature throughout the whole day. If we go to anti-frost, activation, yes. Room set point is 12 degrees. So this is what you'd have when you're on holiday, for example. We've got a set point range, let's have a look at that. Minimum and maximum temperatures, that's fine. Room sensor offset. So you can, if you're in a room with a cold bias or a hot bias, you can adjust that here. So that's it as far as user level access. So that's it for the basic settings, and we're going to see how those go over the next few days. So now we are into day number 3 of my time back at home. And one of the things I've been noticing is that the heat pump is still cycling on and off with maybe a 3 or 4 hour window in each off cycle. Temperature overnight has been around 8 to 6 degrees Celsius. I think tonight it's going to be colder. So there has been a hint of continuous running last night, but it didn't last for too long. So we're going to look at some more advanced settings with this. We want to have a nice continuous output throughout the entire evening. So what we're going to do is go into user profile. And we're going to log in as the installer, which is 5, 6, 7, and 8. The advanced user level is 1, 2, 3, 4. We're in on installer anyway. When that changes from user to installer, then you know you're in the installer level. A couple of things I want to just take you through first. One is the installer settings. If we go to backup heater, I don't like backup heaters, but we have operation, and I have set it to restricted. You can also have it to allowed or only domestic hot water. So I'm just going to leave it at restricted. There is an equilibrium temperature as well. Again, you can change that to -10. I think it was set to -5 before. I'm not too sure what equilibrium is. Yes, okay. Additional capacity step 2, so that's 3 kilowatts. So there's two immersion, there's two heaters, 2-stage heaters, each 3 kilowatts. So you can see that you can adjust the kilowatt rating as you want. But we're not going to do too much more with that. That's it as far as the installer settings is concerned. I haven't changed anything else in here. I don't think it's particularly useful. Get out of here. What you will find is that if we also go to tank, there's one other setting here which appears in installer mode only. It doesn't appear in advanced user or user mode. If we go to disinfection, this will bring the tank temperature up to a level which will kill any Legionnaire's disease bacteria inside the tank. So we had operation day Saturday already, but instead of 11 o'clock in the evening, which is an expensive time, I've changed it to midnight so that we are doing disinfection during the cheap overnight tariff period. So that's all I've done for that. The most interesting thing now is to go to the main zone here. Control. If we go here, now if you've got user access or advanced user access only, you've only got the option of room thermostat or external room thermostat. What we're going to do is set it at leaving water temperature. And what that will do is that instead of controlling to a room thermostat, it is simply going according to the weather compensation curve. So it will operate the pump and the compressor in such a way that it will achieve the set point for the weather dependent curve. So at the moment the temperature is 5 degrees Celsius outside. So we are roughly about here. So the set point temperature is about 31 degrees Celsius. And the temperature inside the house is about 21 degrees. So we can then use this mode to fine tune this weather dependent curve. As you can see, I've reduced the flow temperature at a temperature of -10 and from 45 down to 40 degrees. My next inclination is probably to reduce the flow temperature for the temperature at 18 degrees, but I'm going to see how we get on overnight. Now, one other thing that's interesting to just simply have a look at, if we go to sensors, we have got outdoor temperature and room temperature, and we have got the leaving water temperatures, and the backup heater water temperatures and the refrigerant temperatures and the flow rate that the pump is operating. What you cannot see, however, is the actual consumption of the heat pump itself in terms of power consumption. You have to go to energy data and look at electricity input, but it only gives you statistics and it only gives you these bar graphs. So it shows you, for example, that today, about 8 o'clock, we've had approximately 1 kilowatt hour. It's not particularly useful. The input here, a numeric number, since installation is much more interesting as far as I'm concerned. I don't think that does anything. Oh, it does. Oh, yes. So that is the total input into the system. If we go back up, look at produced heat, scroll to the right, so we see total input. So 299 kilowatt hours. And again, we just look at the total sum. So 319 versus 125. So the coefficient of performance is improving on average. It's up to 2.5 now. But we're going to look at that in more detail in the future. So the plumbers have come in again. During their commissioning last week, they were saying that this radiator wasn't getting warm up here. So the issue with tall radiators is that water comes in here and it goes all the way there, and it's not warm enough to rise up this way. So what they've done is they have put a new insert into here, and what that does is that it puts a obstruction about here, and what that will do is that it will force all the water up this tube here, and then it gets to the top manifold, and then it can come down these other fins. So that's one thing that's happened. And if we go over here, we've got a new radiator for my ensuite. This wasn't supplied last week. They had to reject one of the radiators because it was damaged. So that's now done. This radiator here was running cooler than the other ones, but now they have readjusted the lock shield valve over here, and now this will be running at about the same temperature as all the other radiators. A few details which I did before they arrived. This radiator was full of air. I had to bleed it out. Quite common when you're filling up a central heating system that you'll get trapped air in the pipework, and it will just eventually end up at the top of the radiators. I also had that on this radiator here. It was getting warm about here, but not up here. And this radiator is a bit more of a devil because the bleed valve is at the back here. It's one of these fancy schmancy Zender radiators, which I paid some money for. So we are now complete in terms of installation. So we also need to do a very quick tour of our heat pump cupboard with a thermal camera, and it's interesting to see where the heat is being emitted. At the top you can see the refrigerant pipes, even though they're in lagging, are some of the biggest emitters of heat in the heat pump. And the top of the heat pump, the hydro box, is much warmer than the bottom of it, even though the hot water tank is well lagged. The other thing that's interesting to note is the buffer tank. There's no lagging on that whatsoever, so it does pop out as being quite a bright signature. I've got some ideas of putting some shelves in front of that, and then I can use that to just keep my sheets and towels nice and warm, and that should keep them nice and dry, which is very good. Well, installation is one thing. We are now complete. Commissioning is also complete, but fine-tuning and analysis continues. The adjustments I made last night have been excellent. They have resulted in a very smooth output in terms of heat pump input, energy consumption, and it has been a very smooth and steady temperature inside my house. It's been a very comfortable 21 degrees, and it's comfortable in all the rooms, which is fantastic. And not only that, but we have not had to use any expensive electricity for the whole night. So as far as this house is concerned, we are on brand, and that's a good thing. That was the objective I wanted to do, but it's quite easy to be on brand in March. Temperatures are cold, but there is a good amount of sunshine during the daytime. So what's next? Well, next comes analysis. That's going to be the next video. This is going to be the bit where I introduce this. This is my Arduino. It sits on top of my heat pump. It is a microcontroller and it costs just under £20. We're going to talk about that in a great deal of detail. The next video is going to be quite technical, so it might not be for everybody. But in the meantime, I'd like to thank you all for watching. This series of videos will be continued, and I'll talk to you again very soon.